The Claude for Legal launch in May 2026 was significant. 20 plus connectors, 12 practice area plugins, Westlaw and LexisNexis connected directly. The most substantial push into the legal market by any general purpose AI company. This channel covered the launch in detail. This episode is not that. This episode is the honest practitioner assessment, 6 months on. The launch announcement and the actual experience of using these tools in legal practice are two different things. What's actually delivering value? What's still maturing and not yet worth deploying firm-wide? What's still missing entirely? And what the regional rollout means for lawyers outside the United States. 20 plus connectors is an impressive number, but not all 20 plus are equal, and trying to evaluate all of them at once is a reliable path to doing nothing. 3 categories are worth prioritizing now. The first is document management, specifically iManage and NetDocuments. If your firm already runs on one of these platforms, this connector is the highest value entry point in the entire suite. The reason is structural. Previously, using Claude on a document required copying it out of iManage, pasting it into the Claude chat window, running the analysis, and copying the output back. With the connector live, Claude reads directly from the matter structure. The document doesn't move through the chat window. Claude operates inside the system of record rather than alongside it. That's a workflow change, not a feature upgrade. The second is contract platforms, Ironclad and DocuSign. The Ironclad connector is the clearest demonstration in the entire Claude for Legal suite of what the connector layer actually changes in practice. Claude reads the redline directly from the Ironclad workspace, flags issues against the firm's playbook, and writes the response back, without the document ever moving through a chat window. For firms with active Ironclad deployments, this is the contract review workflow changed at the infrastructure level, not at the prompt level. The third is Microsoft 365. This is the most accessible connector for most firms because it requires no additional subscription beyond Claude itself. Claude works inside Word for contract drafting and review, inside Outlook for correspondence, inside Teams for meeting summaries. If your firm runs on M365, which most firms do, this is the lowest friction entry point into the connector layer. Start here. The connectors I'd hold off on for most firms under 50 lawyers, Relativity, Everlaw, and Concilio. Functional for dedicated e-discovery teams at larger firms, but the setup and integration requirements are enterprise grade. Most small and mid-sized firms will find the effort to value ratio unfavorable right now. The research integration is the development that changes the most for how this channel's audience works. Westlaw and LexisNexis are now in the Claude session. Thomson Reuters rebuilt CoCounsel on the Claude Agent SDK, which gives Claude access to 1.9 billion Westlaw and practical law documents with full citation grounding. This is materially different from the situation the legal research episode on this channel described. Here is what changes. The core limitation of Claude for legal research, that it reasons well about law but cannot verify that a case exists or that it's still good law, is significantly reduced when the Westlaw or LexisNexis connector is live. Claude is no longer pulling from training data when it cites a case. It's pulling from the live database. The hallucination problem on case citations is substantially reduced, not eliminated. The verify requirement doesn't disappear, but the nature of the verification shifts. You're no longer verifying that the case exists. You're verifying that Claude applied the right authority correctly and that the proposition it draws from the case is accurate. That's a different and more manageable verification task. What doesn't change? The professional judgment requirement. Claude connected to Westlaw still doesn't decide whether a case applies to your facts, whether the risk is acceptable for this client, or what advice to give. The research is faster and more reliable. The lawyer's role in interpreting and applying it is unchanged. The practical limitation worth being clear about: the Westlaw and LexisNexis connectors require active subscriptions to those platforms. If your firm uses a different research platform, the native integration doesn't apply. The hybrid research workflow, Claude for framing and analysis, your research platform for verified authority, remains the relevant model. 12 practice area plugins across corporate, litigation, employment, privacy, IP, and more. All accessible to any paid Claude subscriber. No enterprise contract required. The most underrated feature in the entire Claude for Legal launch is the setup interview. Each practice area plugin opens with a structured interview that learns how your firm approaches this type of work, your risk calibration, your preferred analytical frameworks, the issues you always look for first, the output register your clients expect. The result is a plugin that reflects actual firm practice rather than generic legal workflows. That distinction between a generic legal AI and one calibrated to how your firm works is significant in practice. The plugins with the most positive early practitioner feedback are Commercial Counsel and Employment Counsel. The document-heavy, structured analysis workflows in corporate and employment practice map well to what Claude does reliably. The Litigation Associate plugin is functional, but it benefits significantly from the e-discovery connectors. It delivers more value once Relativity or Everlaw is also connected. What the plugins don't do: automate judgment. The setup interview calibrates the output register and the issue spotting framework. It doesn't replace the professional decision about what advice to give, how hard to push on a clause, or what litigation strategy to recommend. Claude calibrated to your firm's approach still requires your firm's judgment applied to its output. The practical recommendation: pick one plugin that matches your main practice area, run the setup interview, and use it consistently for a month before evaluating others. The calibration improves with use. 20+ connectors is an impressive number. The missing ones matter as much as the ones that are there. No billing integration. Clio, Practice Panther, MyCase, Leap, none of these are connected. Claude for Legal does not capture time entries, generate invoices, or touch billing workflows in any form. For most small and mid-sized firms, billing is the daily friction point. It remains completely outside the Claude ecosystem. No client intake. No connector for intake forms, questionnaires, or legal CRM systems. The client acquisition and onboarding workflow is not part of this platform. Client-facing automation from the first contact remains a separate problem that Claude for Legal doesn't address. No court filing. Claude for Legal can help draft the document. It cannot file it. No integration with e-filing systems in any jurisdiction. The last mile from completed document to filed document remains manual. This is a meaningful gap, specifically for litigation practices. The honest summary: Claude for Legal is an excellent research, drafting, and document review platform. It is not yet a practice management platform. Know which problem you're trying to solve before evaluating whether any of the connectors solve it. Before any firm system is connected to Claude, there is a conversation that needs to happen, and it's not a technical conversation. Pasting a document into Claude is a manual act. You choose what goes in. You can anonymize client identifying information before uploading. You make a deliberate decision about what enters the session. Connecting iManage or NetDocuments to Claude changes that. Claude now has access to the matter structure directly. The data governance question shifts from individual document decisions to system-level policy. Your existing information governance policy, written before these tools existed or updated for Microsoft Copilot but not extended to Claude, may not cover this situation. 3 questions need answers before any firm system is connected. Does your information governance policy cover AI systems with direct access to your DMS? What is your malpractice insurer's position on AI tools that access client matter files? Not just AI tools used by individual lawyers, but tools with system-level DMS access. Have you reviewed Anthropic's data handling and retention terms against your professional conduct obligations? There is also an audit trail gap worth being explicit about. Claude for Legal does not generate the legal-grade audit trail most firms need for client matter work. Conversations run on Anthropic's infrastructure. The firm's responsibility for documenting what AI did on a matter and maintaining that record sits with the firm, not the platform. Build the record-keeping process before connecting firm systems, not after. The regional picture is more nuanced than the launch announcement suggested. The good news first: the core Claude features, projects, skills, the full context window, custom instructions, and all 12 practice area plugins are available globally on any paid plan. If you can access Claude.ai, you can access the plugins. The practice area plugin layer has no regional restrictions for paid subscribers. Claude Desktop MCP is also broadly available. Local MCP connectors through Claude Desktop work on any plan, including free, in any region where the desktop app is available. If you're building or connecting custom tools to your own firm systems, this path has the fewest regional restrictions. The remote connectors, iManage, NetDocuments, Ironclad, Westlaw, LexisNexis, the named legal integrations, are rolling out gradually, and availability varies by connector and region. If a connector isn't appearing in your settings, it may simply not be live in your region yet. Check the Claude status page or contact Anthropic support if you believe it should be available but isn't visible. The practical position for lawyers outside the United States. The workflows, prompts, and techniques covered on this channel work everywhere Claude is available. They don't depend on connectors. The connector layer is additive for firms that already run on the specific platforms. For most lawyers using Claude through Claude.ai directly, the absence of a regional connector doesn't change what's available and useful today. The shift from consulting the AI to AI participating in the workflow is real. The Ironclad connector, the iManage integration, the Westlaw and LexisNexis research layer, these are architectural changes, not feature upgrades. For firms running on those platforms, the workflow has changed at the infrastructure level. But selectively, not all 20-plus connectors deliver equal value. The billing gap, the intake gap, the filing gap are real and unresolved. The information governance questions are serious and need to be answered before system-level connections are made. And the regional rollout is still underway. The practical priority order: M365 connector first, lowest friction, widest applicability. iManage or NetDocuments if your firm runs on them. Westlaw or LexisNexis if you have active subscriptions. One practice area plugin. Pick the one that matches your main practice area. Run the setup interview, use it for a month. That's the update. See you in the next one.